any comments, public comment. We'll move to public comment, but I do not have any submitted to us via email. Is there anybody on Zoom this morning wishing to speak? All right. And Madam Clerk, have you received any emails or voicemails preceding this meeting?
We have no public comment at this time.
All right. All right, we're on to item C. This is the approval of the June 25th Board of Directors meeting agenda. Are there any, I don't have any changes for anything this morning, but does anybody have any changes they'd like to make? If not, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion. Mark Sturbins.
I have a motion from Mr. Sturbins. Do I have a second?
Second from Shannon.
I have a second from Ms. Keel. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're on to approval of the May 28th Board of Directors meeting minutes. Minutes have been provided in your packet. Are there any changes by any board member that would like to make or addend the meetings, the minutes as posted? Okay.
Chairman Lucy,
Yes.
there was one, you got to find it again, on section F1, on the fourth paragraph down, Bill Hanbury is noted as Bill Banbury. And the rest of those, he's indicated correctly, but I think it's just a typographical error there.
Yeah, typographic. I see that Bill Hanbury for the fourth sentence in there on F1. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll make those adjustments. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. All right. Seeing no other corrections, we'll make those corrections. Looking for a motion to accept the minutes with the corrections posted.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Kornstein. Do I have a second?
Second from Mark.
I have a second from Mr. Sturbins. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. We are on to presentations. Ms. Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair Lucy. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start out by addressing the current events around Black Lives Matter that have impacted our community and our nation. Last week, Steve Hill made some very poignant comments at the LVCVA board meeting, and I'd like to state our alignment with his comments. We too feel that it's important to reaffirm that a core RSCVA Reno Tahoe value is one of welcoming and embracing groups and individuals from all backgrounds, religions, ethnicities, gender orientation, as well as social and political philosophies. I've had recent discussions with Steve Hill, and we stand ready to do our part to make the possibility of a new, better, highly evolved, inclusive travel industry a reality in 2020 and beyond. Travel has a way of helping to break down barriers, and as leaders in this industry, we feel it's important to keep the conversation going. I want the board to know that the RSCVA is leaning in to learn and understand the causes and effects of implicit bias and how we might be part of the solution moving forward. This is a time to listen, to reflect, and to learn. For the past year, we've had a seat on the Destination International Task Force on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Our representative on this task force has been sharing her discussions and best practices with us. We're having internal discussions and conversations with the entire staff, and we're looking into racial equity training as well. As you know, we've been sensitive and very deliberate with respect to diversity and inclusion in our marketing materials, photography, videos, and on our website. I'd like to move on now and talk about, last week, I participated in some virtual meetings with US Travel, with the LVCVA, and with Travel Nevada. We had the opportunity to meet with Senators Jackie Rosen and Catherine Cortez Masto and Representative Dina Titus. As you all may know we have very strong support from the three of them. We discussed some advocacy priorities, which included extending the Paycheck Protection Program eligibility once and for all for quasi-governmental destination marketing organizations like the RSCVA. We discussed legislation that would provide protection from frivolous COVID-related lawsuits for businesses that follow proper health and safety guidelines. And finally, very important to the RSCVA is the legislation to provide $10 billion in Economic Development Administration grants for destination marketing organizations. If this legislation is passed, we could use this money to market Reno Tahoe. So we'll watch that very closely. In addition to these priorities, we also discussed the need to keep a very close watch on air service once the CARES Act stimulus expires for the airlines at the end of September. We're very concerned in Northern Nevada that we may see a loss of flights after September 30th when the stimulus money runs out for the airlines. Regarding air service, as of today, we have 8 airlines serving 10 destinations at Reno Tahoe. Unfortunately, we're still trending 75% below last year. Since the pandemic, the lowest number of passengers at the airport was on April 11th, and that was 211 passengers. The highest number was about 10 days ago, and that was 1,800 passengers. To give you a comparison, that compares to approximately 6,500 to 7,500 average daily passengers. So we're well below at this point. We do have some highlights with our airlines that I'd like to just touch on real briefly. American Airlines in the month of June increased their Phoenix service from 2 to 3 daily flights. They increased DFW from 2 to 3 daily flights. And I'm happy to report that in July, they will be adding Chicago or ORD service. Delta in June increased their Salt Lake City service from 2 to 3 flights. And United will be adding LAX service in July. Southwest Airlines, who's been providing the bulk of the service into Reno Tahoe, has added an additional flight to both Denver and Phoenix in June. Last of all, Alaska increased this month their Seattle flights from 2 to 4. And I'm happy to report that they will be bringing back Portland service in July. On top of that, we're having some very serious discussions with JSX about adding 2 new destinations to the Reno Tahoe market, hopefully within the next few months. All right, that's my report. I'd like to turn it over now to the staff so they can update the group, the board on what they've been working on. You'll see that we've been very busy positioning the destination to welcome our visitors back and to book future conventions. And at this point, I'd like to introduce and turn it over to Mike Larragueta. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everyone. Today, Art Jimenez and I will be providing an update on the group and tourism segments. This update will include our current numbers for the convention segment, in addition to what both teams have implemented to educate, update, and energize clients about Reno Tahoe as we work through the COVID-19 pandemic. My first slide shows our production, cancellations, net room nights, and pace versus prior year. Prior to the shutdown in March, the team was on pace to reach and exceed the annual group room night goal of 290,000. July through March, the team had contracted 185,092 group room nights. Based on our goal of 115,000 from the period from March through June of 2020, the team was on pace to finish the year at approximately 300,000 group room nights. Year-to-date cancellations totals 141,357 for a net production number for the year at 43,735. Slide 2 represents cancellations by month. As you can see, the 2 months with the most cancellations were April and June at 25,937 and 58,704. The number of room nights for groups that have postponed their dates but have not secured dates for the future continues to decline. It's down to 737 total room nights. Groups that have postponed their programs and contracted, that is locked in and signed agreements for future dates, totals 42,870 room nights, with more than 50% of that number securing dates in 2021 or beyond. Definite groups that remain on the books for 2020 totals 50,593. The room nights are fairly spread out by month for the remainder of the calendar year, with slight increases in the months of July and October. During the shutdown period, we have been tracking the number of active leads and room nights. From March 17th through June 24, the team has produced 61 new leads representing 136,134 group room nights. Total outstanding leads totals 312 for 565,352. From March 17th through today, both the convention and tourism sales teams, with the assistance from our marketing department, have developed and implemented multiple activities to educate, update, and inform our clients. Convention sales territories have been revised. 4 of the 6 regional directors inherited additional states to ensure that we had adequate coverage. With in-person site inspections on pause right now, we made the decision to partner with Concept 3D, who is the leader in the virtual site inspection space. This software provides interactive 3D maps that pinpoints hotels, facilities, and Reno landmarks. These custom tours are specifically designed to meet clients' specific needs based on their group programs. With the assistance of Ben McDonald and Andy Fox from our marketing team, Art and I have each taped 2 informational videos providing updates on the current status of our hotels, facilities, safety, and sanitation procedures. We wanted to show you a quick snip of our last 2 videos.
Hi, I'm Michael Arrigetta. As the state of Nevada eases restrictions, I'm excited to announce that Reno Tahoe Casino Resorts are open and ready to welcome you back to Northern Nevada. Things will be a little different when you get here. Certain social distancing measures, as well as face coverings, are still recommended. But we're dedicated to taking a slow and measured approach, maintaining your health and safety as our #1 priority. Reno Tahoe's regional offices, from the West Coast to Washington, D.C., remain open, with an experienced team ready to help you rebook, postpone events, or plan one for the future. The Reno Tahoe sales team. Hi, I'm Michael Arrigetta. As the state of Nevada eases restrictions, I'm excited to announce that Reno Tahoe Casino Resorts are open and ready to welcome you back to Northern Nevada. Things will be a little different when you get here. Certain social distancing measures, as well as face coverings, are still recommended. But we're dedicated to taking a slow and measured approach, maintaining your health and safety as our #1 priority.
Mike. It looks like we're having some challenges with the video.
Yeah.
So why
Corey?
don't we move past that?
Okay, apologize. I know everybody wanted to see my video multiple times, but Corey, if you can just let Kayla know that we'll go ahead and bypass Art's video as well, and we'll go and proceed through the presentation. So assuming that those videos were shown to you guys, obviously we wanted to let you know that Art and I both posted those videos on our on our personal LinkedIn pages, and we actually received over 15,000 views. We know TV's not in our future, but we did get a lot of people looking at the video, so that's a positive thing. Moving on, we just completed our first virtual event hosted by Reno's own Mr. David Weiss. This concept was a way to virtually engage clients from both the meeting and leisure segments. David participated in a Q&A moderated by Regional Director of Convention Sales for the Southeast, Mr. Sean Tracy. Like the videos, the virtual events provided us the opportunity to update clients on the reopening of our city, but also on Reno's continued development, sense of community, and overall unified team efforts. We want to show you just two very short clips from last week's event, and hopefully we will not have the technical difficulties we did on the videos. So let's try that. Thank you.
So I'm glad to have you here, David. And I have a few questions for you. If you don't mind, we'll start that. Al?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any group?
Oh yeah, just kind of jumping off of your point about the fact that, I mean, it's a great honor, but it's also such a great privilege to be able to go and represent my country, represent my hometown, represent my home state, and just represent the people who believed in me along the way. And so, both as, you know, people who live here with me in Reno Tahoe and just everybody who's on this call who supports Reno Tahoe. You guys are all part of my team now. So anytime you see me competing moving forward, obviously I'm making another run at the next Olympic Games, trying to make it 3 for 3. So I just thank you guys for joining me in my journey here. And now you can say you're part of my team going forward.
Maybe not the second clip. All right, let me go ahead and move forward. I apologize, Mr. Chair and board. Our next virtual event titled Strengthen Leadership is scheduled for July 16th, and our host is Madam Mayor Hillary Sheeby. The RSCVA, in conjunction with 8 hotel partners, launched a group bounce back program on June 18th. This Plan with Confidence campaign features no attrition, plus additional concessions offered by our individual properties. Our public relations firm, Decker Royal, and our marketing team have identified several media channels to market and distribute the campaign. We have also purchased several regional email lists through our chapter partnerships with MPI and PCMA. The convention sales team continues to pursue group opportunities based on competing cities' COVID-19 related decisions to cancel or postpone groups or shut down their facilities for several months, including some cities that have shut down for the remainder of the calendar year. Regarding our facilities, I would like to update the board, specifically members from our hotels, that we received written notification on June 19th from the state that we are limited to 50 people per group, per room in each of our facilities, as long as it is not attendees from the same group. This allows us to host more than one group at a time, but each individual group cannot exceed 50 people. We will continue to honor the 50% discounted rental pricing in any of our facilities for the remainder of the calendar year, should our hotel partners not be able to accommodate a group's meeting needs in their individual properties. July looks to be a promising month in terms of group bookings. We're forecasting to contract approximately 25,000 room nights, which includes one group that will sign and meet this July and a second group that will sign for approximately 13,000 room nights in July of 2024. With that, I'd like to turn over the presentation to Mr. Art Jimenez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board of Directors. Today, I'm just going to focus on our rebound plan for tourism sales activities. So the team's going to focus on the following rebound items: time management and database cleanup. We've realigned our tourism sales procedures by redistributing duties among the remaining tourism team and cleaned up our database, which consisted of adding or modifying over 4,000 accounts. Travel Click and Airline Reporting Corporation. We will continue to source third-party data partner sites for top-selling GDS agents to our area. We've also completed a niche market travel agent survey to identify sell-to attributes for our region. As Mike previously referenced, we developed email communication assets, which included 2 destination videos. OTAs, online travel agencies, and global distribution system joint marketing campaigns. We've secured inventory placements with Expedia, Priceline, and Sabre. As a reminder, pre-COVID annual OTA bookings accounted for over 700,000 room nights to Washoe County. And GDS bookings represented an average of nearly 170,000 annual room nights per year over the last 3 years, with ADRs as high as $158. Direct selling. We will monitor available resources in planning our sales missions, trade show participation, FAMs, and out-of-town sales activity. Next slide. We tracked Washoe County OTA booking trends during the shutdown. And if you note on the chart on the left, the daily year-over-year booking pace was off as much as 75% at the bottom of COVID. We started to see a rebound in May, where bookings were only off by about half. The chart on the right shows a rebound of future stays. Once bookings began to outpace cancellations, late summer and fall bookings returned to stronger levels. Also, one OTA saw a dramatic surge in a spike in search for September almost as soon as USBC announced new September dates. OTA joint marketing campaigns. We will concentrate on drive markets in Southern California and continue to leverage partnership marketing funds with Expedia and Priceline. We will relaunch a paused 30-day Expedia campaign on July 5 and roll right into a 90-day campaign through early November. Also this go-round, Priceline will be matching funds for RSCVA and hotel partners. Of course, our creative will mirror our consumer messaging, but with a call to action. We will continue to court our travel agent extended sales force via Sabre and Mailpound. Sabre GDS messaging will focus on communicating an extended stay or return visit. We will continue our webinar and email campaign series with targeting over 40,000 agents. In this fiscal year, we will launch our destination guide and hotel partners landing pages so hotel sales staff can communicate directly with agents. Also slated for fiscal year 21 is a continuation of timely communications, whether this be communicating via video or direct mail inviting clients to events. That concludes my report on our rebound plan for tourism sales. Are there any questions? Very well. Up next are Christina Ernie and Ben McDonald in marketing and communications.
The only thing, can I say one thing?
Yes.
All right. First of all, thank you so much. I looked over that. I think it's great, but Art's not going to tell you this, but it was his birthday. So make sure everyone wishes him happy birthday.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Happy belated birthday, Art. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm excited to update you on where we are at with our marketing efforts. Starting with advertising, the majority of our advertising will be focused on digital to have flexibility, and so we can pivot messaging quickly to reflect our traveler and country sentiment. We have been leaning on our longstanding relationships with influencers these past few months. It will continue to do so. They have been great at promoting Reno Tahoe at no charge, knowing our budgets have been slashed, and that is a hard time for the travel industry. They've been writing blog content, linking to our site. They're still one of the top referrals to our website, and of course, featuring us in their social feeds. We are running out of home right now, and because the outdoor companies love our scenic creative so much, we have been able to secure a couple $100,000 worth of bonus boards in our drive markets right now. Last month, Jennifer Cunningham shared our new commercial spot with you, and I just wanted to update you that it is currently running in the Bay Area and Sacramento, both on cable and on digital platforms. And lastly, we have partnered with the regional DMOs to run a digital campaign in LA, which is starting mid-July. Next up, I just wanted to share with you guys, we have updated our messaging on our creative to make it more sensitive to what's going on around us. And then next up with our website, we have been continuing to update our website weekly, daily with very timely messaging. Health and safety is a huge priority for all of us right now. We are updating for like our outdoor content, new rules of the trail, highlighting social distancing and best practices there. And as you can see with the chart, the traffic to our website is coming back this month as our hotels are open and our people are looking to travel. It has more than doubled. And part of this is because during the hotel closures, our team worked really diligently on page optimizations, and we competitively positioned ourselves to be high-end page rankings. We wrote a ton of content to answer anticipated questions, such on road trips, which are really popular right now. And along with these efforts, new users to our website has increased from 30% of our traffic to 70% of our overall traffic right now. Our email content is also performing really well right now. We are sending out a consumer email that is targeted to our drive markets and our fly markets, 2 separate emails, and we're personalizing them. And the open rates on them are between 30 and 45%. And we're also doing a reporting email that has a high open rate as well. We have launched our We're Opening messaging a couple weeks ago when everything opened. It was a huge success. Again, our influencers have been really helping us out and commenting on a lot of our content, which boosts it immensely. This post alone got over 50,000 organic impressions. And as you can see by the comments, people were excited to come back and that our destination opened up. Going along with our social content, we have been doing a ton of listening on social media. Again, health and safety is our priority. We want to be positioned as a trusted source. And even during the shutdowns, we were really active, which kept us in a strong position within the algorithms of social media. We did a short campaign in April that was picked up by Forbes.com. And as you can see, our engagements are continuing to go back up. And just a quick note is that those engagements are likes and comments, not video views. And so some of those dips are when we ran a lot of videos, which tend not to get as many engagements. But for example, that one on the week of June 12th got 27,000 organic video views as well. And next, I'm going to send it over to Ben McDonald to continue the updates.
Thanks, Christina. Good morning, everyone. Much of our communications efforts have centered around supporting meetings and conventions as well as travel trade. Mike mentioned the Concept 3D 360 platform, which will be critical in the coming months as we wait for travel to rebound again for targeting meetings and conventions, third-party meeting planners. And we did a lot of work on that in March and April, collecting photos and videos and other collateral, well over a dozen locations. And those efforts continue right now as we continue adding to that platform to be used as a tool for the next 6 to 18 months at least, I would say. We're also help curating content for those MPI and PCMA bounce back email programs that Mike mentioned, and our scheduled newsletters as they relate to meetings and conventions, sports and travel trade are set to start resuming next month as travel was brought to a halt for this destination. We didn't want to send out the wrong messaging, so we did pause some of those programs, but those are ready to kick back up here in the next couple of weeks. As mentioned, the meetings and convention pages have all been updated to put the real focus on health and safety. As Mike noted, that is the #1 concern for meetings and conventions, and we want to make sure people feel safe when they're considering Reno Tahoe. We also produced a 6-minute custom bid video for that potential convention of up to 13,000 rooms in 2024. We're hopeful that we'll get a positive vote here in the next couple of weeks and be able to report on that next month. And also, we produced those 2 videos, 4 videos, 2 with Mike and 2 with Art. We felt it was important to send out to their prospective markets and make sure people were getting an update on Reno Tahoe, even during the lull in business. Make sure they knew that we were focused on them individually and as an industry, lending our support to M&C and travel trade. As far as PR efforts, we all experienced a big win this week. Residence Consultancy puts out their best cities lists annually. It's not any one agency that can take credit for something like that, having Reno be #1 on the list of best small cities, which encompasses US cities with population bases of 100,000 to 500,000. Can't do that in a vacuum. It takes everybody. It takes our city and county leadership. It takes the university, EDON, Chamber of Commerce, and of course our hoteliers and local business owners to all make that happen, as well as all the great PR agencies that we have in town, helping spread that message for the last 5 to 10 years. And the Reno Tahoe International Airport plays a role in that as well. It looks at quality of life, airport, convention center, the type of people that live in the destination, the type of people that visit. So it's a big win for us. And from a PR standpoint, we'll be using that for the next 2 years probably to tout our region and this destination. During the shutdown, we've also had positive mentions in the Oprah magazine, Condé Nast Traveler, Travel and Leisure, Washington Post, and a couple spots in Forbes. As Christina mentioned, one of those was the inclusion of our social media contest for Earth Day, where we set out an Instagram contest for people to use recycled materials to create their own art piece, which sounds simple, but we actually got a lot of traction on that in the PR realm as well. Proactive media outreach continues, of course. And certainly we're going to have some challenges as far as bringing in media fams. Usually we bring in a group of 4 to 5 journalists at least twice a year. With the travel situation right now, that will be challenging, but we are taking advantage of a unique opportunity to host a prominent travel and consumer advocacy writer in the destination for the next 3 months. And he will be writing about the recovery. And so please wear your masks, because if we're not all taking care of each other and taking caution and moving things forward, there's only so much control we can have over that story. So hopefully it will be a positive one and one of strong health and recovery. Also, in these times, very challenging times, certainly in our destination and across the nation and the world. And right now we are looking into research programs to collect data that will help us understand better the minority sentiment and perceptions of our destination. That would include people who've visited recently, as well as people who live here. And I think it's important that we use that data as we've been directed to make those decisions, as opposed to trying to guess what people are looking for when they travel. And the ultimate goal is to make sure that we are creating that welcoming environment, as Ms. Cunningham said, and that all visitors feel safe, welcome, and comfortable coming to Reno Tahoe. And the last piece is special event partnership funding. As we know, a lot of events are postponing and canceling in some cases, and we continue to monitor that from a funding standpoint, looking at criteria from, will there still be attendees? Does the event still have hotel partners? Are they switching over to virtual events? Is there another spectator portion of the event that might be new, as we all try to innovate in these times when it's very difficult for people to get here? And then if funding doesn't meet those criteria, we're looking at additional sponsorships that would be at a reduced level to at least provide some support from the RSCVA to those events that are so important to our tourism product. And with that, I'll take any questions, and if not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Chisel.
All right. This is Robert Chisel, and I'll be real quick. The interim financials for April are distributed in your packet. As the board will recall, we had a number of scenarios for the impact of the pandemic on our revenues and expenses. The scenario we eventually arrived on and the board adopted was scenario F, That was also used as a baseline to develop the adopted budget for 2021. Quickly, the scenario showed RSCVA revenue from room tax and surcharge at $270,000 for April. We had over $364,000 of revenue, $90,000 more than projected. In May, for May, we were looking to see over 500,000 above the projections that we had in scenario F. So with that optimistic revenue and expenses coming in, we were able to accelerate the marketing efforts that was noted earlier by Christina and Ben. And we are cautiously optimistic that those revenues and expenses are going to continue. We are holding the line on our expenses, as you can see. They've actually been below what we had projected. The board had also requested in May an overview of our priorities for increased expenditures, as we were able to see a consistent trend in outperforming the projections we had developed. The priorities that staff has developed to focus the additional resources on as they become available will be: one, as you all know, marketing, particularly increased spend on digital advertising with a focus on the California drive market. Second, air service, support of airlift opportunities that may become available. Three, booking incentives from sales. Fourth, staffing, returning of select positions from furlough to active duty. And finally, fifth, capital restart of some of the select capital projects that were canceled in March 2020. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know I went quick. If not, I'll turn it back over to Jennifer.
That concludes our update. So I'll turn it back over to Mr. Chair Lucy.
Thank you, Jennifer. We appreciate it. All right. Seeing no questions for the executive, this is just for information only. We will move on to Mr. Michael Day with ASM for an update on the facilities and upcoming events.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Madam Mayor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen on the board. Good morning to you all. I will also be brief here and give you a little snapshot from the facilities side. As this is my first time in front of the board this year, I thought it'd be good to take a half step back and just kind of see where this journey has been this year. 2019 and 2020 was actually our first internally created budget with a full staffing and our own budget plan. And that budget increased the number of events and the benchmark financials from what we had been doing historically here before ASM. We knew this was going to be a challenging budget. Again, we raised the bar. We wanted to challenge ourselves, but we felt if we could achieve this budget, that we would cement our legacy here in Reno. And the good news is through the first 8 months, through February, we were doing that. We were tracking $155,000 better than that budget. And that was driven mostly by a 24% increase in event attendance and a 28% increase in event income, again, from that additional budget. The big winner of all this was going to be the Reno Event Center downtown. The REC was on pace to have its first profitable year since 2008 and its very best year in 14 years. And that was being mostly driven by ticketed events. The Reno Event Center typically has 15 to 17 ticketed events. We had 27 ticketed shows on the schedule for that fiscal year. This fiscal year, we're still in it. That's a 60% increase from historical averages. The bowling stadium had reopened. The National Bowling Stadium was prepared for the U.S. Open Championships, which was scheduled to begin in March. The schedule was full. As a matter of fact, they'd expanded their schedule because the response was so good. That event was expected to have a $70 million economic impact for Reno. But the plug on all that got pulled on March 17 when Governor Sisolak ordered the closure of all essential businesses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We very quickly, on March 19th, made the very difficult decision to furlough 80% of our staff. About 140 staff members were furloughed to preserve the cash flow and preserve our business. The facilities were essentially mothballed. A skeleton staff of literally a handful of directors were here to maintain the essential business operations, and a handful of engineers to keep the important facilities running. During that time, however, though, we did work closely with the Volunteers of America and the City Housing and Neighborhood Division, and we turned the Reno Event Center almost overnight, being set up for a Leonard Skinner concert. We turned it into a homeless shelter, and it still operates today as a homeless shelter. The livestock event, the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center is still operating at a COVID-19 testing center, working with the Washoe County. The Northern Nevada Food Bank was operating an emergency warehouse here out of the Convention Center, and we worked with the Federal and State Department of Health and Human Services and the Army Corps of Engineers to basically stage and be ready for an emergency medical facility here at the Convention Center. That was never activated, but it was prepared. Next slide, please. During this, ASM Global has launched Venue Shield, and I'm not going to get down in the weeds in this. We're going to go very quickly, but essentially, this pandemic has caused facility operators around the world to rethink how we operate and to redevelop our best practices. And ASM Global is in a unique situation of having facilities all around the world who are all dealing with this same situation. So through our partners, which you'll see in a minute, we are still under construction, building Venue Shield, which is 6 different areas of focus that you see there: workforce safety, environmental hygiene, technology and equipment, food safety, customer journey, and public awareness. And next slide, please. The environmental hygiene is already published last week. I have it right here on my desk, all 280 pages of it. Workforce safety is due in the next 2 weeks, followed by the other columns of Venue Shield. I will say food safety has already been very active in that we've already been getting a lot of directives from Savor to all of our properties, including here in Reno, on that. Next slide, please. And there is the list of our partners that we've been doing this in conjunction with AECOM and SERVPRO, the 2 biggest ones. But all of those groups have been reviewing and suggesting and inputting their take onto our best practices that is going to encompass and make up Venue Shield. Next slide, please. And it's really a toolkit. It's an operational playbook. I can go into this book and look up a different scenario or situation, different types of materials to find out what are the best practices to properly sanitize that area based on the COVID-19 protocols. So it's an evolving toolkit for us to use. Next slide, please. And because of that, there's going to be constant news updates that come from ASM Global as different procedures evolve from all of our different properties to improve those best practices. Next slide, please. And so it's a toolkit of a lot of resources there, most of which we're already using is our signage, and you'll see them as you go around the property. And next slide, please. Finally, a little snapshot of what our schedule looks like. And I'm not going to go through each one of these. There's a lot of familiar names you see here. But as Michael said earlier, we are right now restricted to 50 people or less per event per space. And so all those events you see there in blue, there are also some holds in there, should be able to happen within those parameters. The ones you see in red would require us to go up to the 50% occupancy. Which we were expecting and hoping is going to come back soon. If we get that, then those red events will take place. If not, they're probably going to go away. Next slide, please. And finally, I just want to do a personal quick shout out and a thank you and recognize my great team we have here. Although ASM Global is a global resource of resources, the management team here all have deep ties to Reno and to Nevada in this area. We're all dedicated to these facilities. And a big shout out to Dante, Renee, Todd, Corinne, Steve downtown, Mike out of the Livestock Event Center. We've all been working long days and long nights to keep everything running and ready to reopen. So with that, Mr. Chairman and board, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Any questions for Michael Day and the ASM team? I want to make a quick conversation. I know there's been some confusion with indoor venues between the properties and the convention authorities across the state. I was on a phone call yesterday with the governor and his staff, Terry Reynolds from the Business and Industry, and Michael Brown from GoEd and the LEAP team. And they did confirm, though, that in the directive that was released on June 12th, Directive 21, that there was some confusion in the terminology about allowing spaces to have up to 50% of occupancy. That the governor's stance is exactly as Michael pointed out, just that only 50 people at this time per space at any given time. Those discussions are ongoing, but more than likely we will not be seeing the 50% occupancy in a given room based upon fire code until phase 3. And a lot of that comes from the spikes that with a 7-day moving average that we're seeing in Clark County, Washoe County, and Carson City across the state. So, you know, with that, and I know Mayor Sheevy has been a bit advocate, we need to advocate to wear masks. Obviously, the governor came out with his mask mandate and directive last night, but we need to continue to enforce that and enforce that in a way that educates individuals on how to wear masks in public, how to do that in a safe manner, but also the ability for our businesses to continue to conduct business in a safe manner as well. So, Mr. Day, thank you for all your work. Ms. Cunningham, Mr. Larragetta, we appreciate you trying to continue to put events in our event center and conduct business, but in a safe manner. So hopefully we will see some changes in the upcoming weeks as we continue to flatten the curve again, hopefully. So
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion on the ASM update, I'm going to move on to item E3. This is a legal counsel update. So Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Rezak, do you want to present to us some legal update?
Mr. Chair, Ben Kennedy here. I think this one's me. So I had a request from a board member to add this as a standing agenda item. I know some of the local governments have legal updates as standing items. I don't anticipate I'll always have something to report, but it just provides a forum to give any legal updates or to answer any questions the board has. The one caveat, I want to make sure we're not discussing attorney-client privileged information as part of these agenda items. And this month I've got nothing to report. But I do want to make clear that if you have questions or issues, please don't wait until the meetings. You can always reach out directly to Molly or myself. So with that, if there are any questions, happy to take them. If not, turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. I appreciate that. Mr. Kennedy, I appreciate that. We will move on at this time. All right, let's move on to board matters. I know Ms. Silver is going to depart, so we want to move to some first to the search-wide update so we have Mr. Gamble and Mr. Hanberry with us from search-wide this morning to provide us an update on the CEO search process and then possible discussion on position description and salary parameters. So with that, Mr. Gamble, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair Lucy. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Well, Bill and I had over 40 Zoom calls with all of you and many of your stakeholders. It was honestly a great few weeks. First thing I'll say is that the stakeholders outside the boardroom really appreciated being asked. And we're appreciative, honestly, to all of you for presenting the names to us. We then followed up and we just had really good dialogue. So I wanted to make sure to make that comment first. It's an important one. People love to be asked before starting the search, and that was certainly the case within the community. The other thing I think I'd say to begin is that we were pleased with the amount of consensus that we found in the common themes throughout. So that's really what we want to present to you today, and hopefully everyone has seen the draft document. Bill and I really want to spend time on pages 3 through 6. Andy Chapman, and we're thankful for him, and working with the marketing department, worked on the first couple of pages. We like to do a sales and marketing piece, And so the first couple of pages is important to tell the story, to tell the story about Reno and the organization. And then the balance of it really about the specific requirements for the job. So, and again, important thing to note is that there may be things that I talk about today that you're not in 100% agreement on, and I understand that. But it's important to understand that we really tried to, again, find where's the consensus and where are the common themes. So it's really the community that's thinking. And we're happy to say that there's a lot of consistency there. So, but don't be afraid to ask us more details about some of those areas. I don't think there's a great opportunity to edit background characteristics, skill set, and top priorities, because again, we had almost 45 stakeholders that somewhat all agreed that these were the things. So, so having said that, I'd really like to proceed through. So going to page 4, you'll find some information there that's pretty standard in your job description. Perhaps some that you've used before. These are the essential duties and responsibilities. If there are things that aren't there that you think should be there, and I even say this to staff, please don't hesitate to send those to us. I mean, we really focused on resume, personality, characteristics, top priorities, but it's not that these aren't important, they are. But the job is all encompassing too. And so, so not to diminish the importance of page 4, but I'd really like to direct you to page 5 and start there. As we really, it was, and we want this body, let's have some discussion here, because this is really going to be, when you talk about the background specifically and the type of experience that everyone's hoping for, the one thing that was loud and clear, no surprise, travel, tourism, hospitality experience is almost 100% consensus there. A lot of also consensus for destination marketing experience. So did everyone say that? No, but did a majority of the stakeholders say that they would prefer to see somebody who's run an organization similar to this one with that type of experience in their background? They did. And for us, and I'll ask Bill to comment on this too, that again is good. We feel like that's good consensus, because again, there's a lot of components to running an organization like this, that having the experience previously, more than just perhaps private sector, we think is critically important to long-term success. So that first bullet, if you will, and we lead with it, because as we start to really look at the candidates that we believe are going to be the best candidates, they've really got to have a depth of that type of experience, travel, tourism, hospitality, and preferred, if possible, DMO experience. A lot of other important things below that, but I guess I'd stop there first to see if there are any questions. Bill, anything to add there?
Yeah, Mike, if I could, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you on Zoom. And I want to just add a couple things that Mike said about our process, our discovery process. The thing I think I was most excited about was how interested and concerned your stakeholders actually were. Sometimes these calls for us become very mundane for folks, but this group of folks that we talked to were excited about Reno, really excited about the future. Although we're under some difficult circumstances right now, I think you can be appreciative of the fact that you've got stakeholders who really care, are really energized, and really want to make sure we do the right thing as we go forward on this search. Regarding Mike's comments around DMO experience, these are very complicated jobs. As most people will attest, you've got multiple stakeholders, multiple channels for marketing and sales efforts. And the reality is you really need someone who has that kind of expertise. So, and we heard that loud and clear from stakeholders.
Yep, good. And let me talk about characteristics, and then we can circle back if there are questions on, again, because that'll be the key for us from a background perspective. But the other thing is we paid attention to when we asked people about, we can find a lot of resumes that match and that have this type of experience. The key is finding the right people that will match from a chemistry perspective with the community. So when we talked about key characteristics, skill sets, and personality types, we listened intently, but then we also paid attention to the frequency in which we heard them. And so we listed them in order. And especially the top 5 are important. I mean, of course, impeccable leadership skills, no surprise there. And I wouldn't expect you to be surprised. But the next one, results driven with and accustomed to a high level of accountability. I can't tell you that we always hear that in the top 10, but we heard it loud here. So that's why we put it as number 2, high integrity with a strong moral compass. It's always important, but again, said often. And Bill, why don't you talk about a couple more of these as we go down this?
I'll highlight a couple that I thought were really important. Innovative thinker. They were talking about trying to find a CEO who will identify the next big thing, and whether it's not only just in tourism, but perhaps within the community. A lot of discussion around technology and the fact that Reno has become an epicenter for technology innovation, and that if we can find a CEO who has that kind of background, I think we're well served from that kind of activity. The other thing that I thought was really important here was connection to community and the ability to be someone who's very likable. Time and time again, we were told by community that this person needs to make sure that they can interact at all levels across the community, from the tourism industry to the chamber, to the technology world, to the nonprofit world, to the arts and cultural world. All of those things need to be in the portfolio of this person, and their ability to collaborate and to communicate effectively with that wide range of audiences. And I think we have to find a very special person for that, for sure, because this is not for the faint of heart at all. It's a difficult task to be able to interact with all those different kinds of constituencies within a community.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say before we do want to stop here and open for questions on these 2 categories is that 4th bullet, Bill mentioned it, the high likability factor. We put a lot in there: charismatic, confident, empathetic, and humble. Instead of listing those individually, we wrapped it all up into one. Again, very, very consistent messaging there. It's high on the list. And that'll be high on our list as we start to look for, potential candidates for the role. So I'd like to just stop there before we go to top priorities and see if there are questions, comments about ideal background and characteristics.
We have any questions?
Andy Chapman.
Go ahead, Andy.
Sorry, let me get turned on there. No, I think that's all great. It was great working with Mike and Bill and their team and putting this together. And thanks to all of the staff that participated in providing a lot of the background research. But certainly interested what the board has to say. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to gather comments from the board in regards to the background and characteristics that Searchwide has put together. Is there comments from the board? Is this acceptable from the board as we send this out?
I have a comment, brief as it will be. I think it was a very good outline, very comprehensive. And to me, this is all about the execution now. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm thrilled with where we are and looking forward to getting the feedback of how the market responds to, meaning the candidates respond, especially given this environment. So I'm cheering you on. Good luck.
Thank you, Don. Chair Lucy, if you're okay, I'd like to go to the top priorities.
Yes, let's move along. Thanks, Mr. Gamble.
Okay, thank you. And this is an important piece for us. It may be a little different than most search firms, but because of especially Bill's experience and I guess mine as well, of experience having done searches like this, we like to make sure to help any candidates we're talking to understand what's really in front of them. And as Don just alluded to, there's a lot in front of them with any organization similar to this or any organization in any vertical market. But we had a lot of feedback on top priorities. Bill and I'd like to really go through these because this could be a list of 10 or 12, and we tried to keep it, to 5 again that we heard most frequently. Of course, the execution of a COVID plan for the next, COVID recovery plan for the next 12 to 24 months is very consistent with what we've heard from other clients really worldwide. But certainly in the US. And so again, that wasn't a surprise to us. And that's really going to be important. And when we come back with our candidates, we're going to come back to all of you and have some good suggestions, I think, as to even how to structure the interview process in a lot of ways, but certainly starting with this one. We've got to make sure that we've got a person who can effectively lead us through this. And I'd like Bill to talk about the next bullet about the air service. Bill?
Yeah, sure, Mike. You know, Jennifer actually talked about it in her report out this morning to the board, but it's really critical for Reno, and we heard this time and time again, that they must have adequate air service in order to be competitive. And so we believe that anybody that's going to come to the table here should have some degree of expertise, understanding of air service and the value that it plays into a destination. And you know, you've already have your consortium, you have resources already allocated to this, but to have a CEO who has walked in to meet with the executives at Delta or American or United Airlines, we believe is a very valuable asset. And there are individuals out there, there are people on your team who have those kinds of relationships, and we need to make sure that becomes priority one for this new chief executive. And because without it, you know, particularly coming out of the COVID-19 crisis, we just don't feel you're going to be reaching for full potential without the kind of air service that you need.
There was then in the third one, quite a bit of discussion about the oversight of the facilities. Again, as most of you know, it is unique for the DMO to either manage and or oversee the convention facilities. There are a dozen or so destinations in the country that have that responsibility. We wanted to make sure it was an important part of the top priorities. It's not to assume or say that something or anything would change, but as we're evaluating candidates, they need to understand it's a big part of the equation. And as we've said before, we've known ASM for a long time and have watched their work throughout the country, but it was important enough and heard often enough that we felt like it needed to be a part of the top priorities. And of course, the assessing, listen, you know, the reality is there's been a lot of change in the leadership of the organization. Any new leader, leadership change is tough. It's always hardest on the staff. We were very grateful to have time with the team, great team. And you know, a new CEO is going to have to really spend some time and get to know people and really understand the culture and really dig in to understand every aspect of it, especially as we sit in the heart of the COVID-19. And so we certainly felt that was an important part of a top priority as well, as did many stakeholders. And then lastly is all your previous CEOs haven't been as good perhaps at the stakeholder engagement in the community. And this CEO needs to be. And I mean really strong and meaningful relationships, and that's hard work. And Bill, again, I don't want to put words in the mouth. I'm going to let Bill talk about it.
Yeah, but Chairman, Board,
yeah, go ahead.
This needs to be a top priority. I think candidates that will present themselves will all have a certain level of competencies around finance and administration, HR, all those good things that in many respects are table stakes to come to this job. But where the real secret sauce will be is in the personality match with what Reno really wants. And so we're going to work really hard on making sure that the personality of this person is in compliance with what Reno desires and what you guys deserve. Someone who has empathy, someone who has their ego in check, who can understand their role in community. This is a incredibly important role in the community. And you know, Ann spoke to us about this, that you know, the person in this job needs to stand alongside the chamber, the economic development, the city leaders, various leaders around the region, to make sure that they're part of the solution and that they're a colleague and a collaborator in that kind of environment. So that will require a unique personality.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I'd say in wrapping up is the best cities designation is a really big deal. And congratulations to all of you. You know, congratulations to the team, to the board, and to the community. We're super impressed with that. And boy, are we going to lead with that. And it, as one of you said, hey, we're going to talk about it for 2 years. You probably should talk about it for 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's it's a big deal. And honestly, it's going to be a great thing for Bill and I to have as we're talking to people about this opportunity. So Chair Lucy, I would say I'd offer again, the floor for any other questions about the document, and then happy to then move into salary discussion after that.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Gamble or Mr. Hanbury in regards to the document as it's been presented to us? You know, I want to kind of kick this off and say thank you to Searchwide and the team for putting through such an extensive outreach to all of the community leaders and stakeholders for this discussion. I think that it's been essential. I think you've really captured a number of the major issues and priorities put forth that will help elevate Reno Tahoe and the RSCVA to that next level and bring forth one of the top candidates for us. I think Mr. Kornstein has pointed this out before. Right now, I think the market has a number of individuals that are out there that are potential that could be game changers for our community. And with that, I think I feel confident that Searchwide will be able to bring us forward in this document. It definitely highlights and definitely details those individuals that we are looking for here in the community. So I want to thank you on behalf of that first.
You bet.
Are there any comments for Mr. Hanbury or Mr. Gamble? Questions or comments? All right, seeing none. All right, so Mr. Gamble, let's move into the discussion on the salary parameters so that we can move forward and look at some motions from the board in regards to that.
Okay, great, thank you. And so we've looked at history, the most recent CEO, and with a base salary at $250 with a bonus potential of 40%, a car allowance of $750 a month, and a severance package of 6 months severance if fired for cause or not for cause. And so there's certainly, with the size of your organization, based on budget complexity and your oversight of the facilities, pre-COVID, but even post-COVID, these packages around the country would likely be much higher. We do the research on like organizations, but as I said to you before, we're comfortable with that range. What we would love to have is if we find a candidate that perhaps needs a 275 or a base or something, perhaps a little closer to 300, what we'd love to hear from the board is, would you be interested in hearing about those candidates? If we think that it is, as Chair Lucy said, a real game changer type candidate, should we bring a candidate like that to you, or would you prefer us to stay right in that range? So again, I guess I'd open it up for discussion. We understand where you've been, where you're budgeted, and we just wanted to make sure before we begin we really actively search that we have the parameters from all of you.
All right, I'm going to open it up for discussion to the board in regards to the salary parameters. Anybody? Go ahead.
Yeah, Chair Lucy, this is Mark Sturbins. I would certainly agree if it's that close to the salary range, we should look at those candidates and make sure that we get the best well-rounded candidate that we could possibly find for this role. So I would certainly support looking at those candidates, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturbins. Any other comments?
Chair Lucy, Ed Lawson. Yeah, I agree. We had talked before we hired our last CEO. We were even up into the 500,000 range at some part of our discussion. So I don't think we can rule anybody out. We have absolutely awesome candidate, and they're demanding 350. Then we got to look at that being the number. So I think it's more for me is about the candidate, not so much about the salary.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Mr. Chapman, do you have?
I do. I just wanted to have a quick conversation and gauge the interest of the board around the bonus level. And I know, and I'm still relatively new on the board, but there had been obviously some talk within the community as the past CEO was provided those bonus structures. And I'd like to hear from Bill and Mike how they feel about the 40%, because that seems high to me. It may not be, and maybe it's a scenario where the base salary has some flexibility, but do we make some moves on that bonus structure? Because I know there have been quite a bit of conversation around that the last couple of times.
Mike, I can lead if you want me to there.
Well, let me mention the data, Bill, if I can. And so organizations with $20 to $50 million budgets, most of whom, by the way, do not have oversight of facilities. Again, their base range is 280 to 380. And so there are quite a few higher than that. And in this case, there's only 5% less than that 280. So 95% of CEOs who run organizations similar in size and actually less in scope are making at least 280 base. From a bonus perspective, the bonuses are 30 to 40% for that same group. What I'd love to have Bill chat a little bit about is, again, about the metrics around that.
Yeah, the methodology around the bonuses, Andy, is really important. And I think, some communities just don't do it very well. There needs to be a very strict adherence to what the bonus criteria will be. And it has to be based specifically on KPIs, key performance indicators that are applicable to his, what the CEO, his or her performance relates to. And, 30% is, as Mike says, is not uncommon. 40% is pretty rich. But the key thing would be to assure that whatever bonus criteria the board has, that there has to be a very specific criteria, measurable criteria that allows you to judge his or her performance to assure that they're reaching the bonus criterias. And you really have to put some thought into that. I mean, at some point, if the board would like to see some examples of some of those kinds of bonus criteria, we can certainly share that with you. And because there is best practices out there that grind on the CEO. And this is one place where you really do need to grind on the CEO to make sure that he or she is performing at the optimal level, and not allow them to make a bonus that, in reality should not have been achieved.
I have a question. What are we thinking about regarding the term of contract?
Yeah, Don, thanks for bringing that up. That was my next item. I think that a 3-year agreement as a first agreement makes a lot of sense. I think the real key is the exit strategy, which would come in the severance language. And so fill out a 6-month severance. If we're being 100% candid with you here, which of course we are, that you will not find an external candidate that will likely agree to a 6-month severance. They will, again, likely need at least a 12-month severance. And that's just based on historical data as they come in. So there's just too many variables for them. So I would like to have some discussion about that. Thank you for bringing it up, Don. It's that. But we would not recommend more than a 3-year, but the real key again is pre-negotiating the exit strategy, which would be in the severance, and we would recommend that that's at a 12-month instead of 6.
So in terms of how you proceed, do you actually post the proposed compensation package, or do you try to qualify the candidates, narrow the group down, and then you have some latitude as you have broader, a narrower group of candidates? Because to me, when I think about this, I wouldn't necessarily go as far as Ed went, $500,000 or whatever. But to me, there are these moving variables of what's the salary, what's the bonus? And let's keep in mind the difference between 30% and 40%. If we get up to 300,000, we're talking about $30,000. For the benefit of getting the right candidate, to me, that's like a speed bump. It's irrelevant to be worried about that. No disrespect to somebody else's opinion. I'm just giving you mine. And the idea that we're in this pandemic circumstance with so much uncertainty, that's facing people. To me, the idea of offering 3 years of security will be a very important element, that there may be some other flexibility, whether it's salary, bonus, but we're not going to know till we get the right candidate. So my attitude is, I'd rather give you more flexibility. You're not going to commit without the board ultimately approving the candidate. We've got to get as much bait out in the water as we can to get the fanciest fish we can catch. And I don't want to hamstring you at this point. That's just my own point of view, to not get the best group of candidates. So that's the way I would proceed.
Yeah, if I can, thank you for that, Don. Let me just comment on that. We do not post or advertise any components of the salary. But what we like to have when we have that one-on-one dialogue when we're down to what we think are the qualified and interested candidates, is a real honest conversation, and be able to have almost a salary range, Don, and group, and to say, hey, this is, it's 250 to maybe 275 base. And because we're selling, 30% bonus. I mean, it's base and bonus are the things, of course, that we typically lead with, and most important to the candidates. But to your point, Don, if we now know too, though, that someone says, gosh, I'll need a little bit more than that, say, well, let's go through the interview process. Let's just keep that in mind. But at least everyone understands where the parameters are. That's the piece that's really helpful for us. So today, that's what we'd love to be able to walk away with. But to answer your question, we will not necessarily post. Of course, it'll be in public record, but we don't put it on a posting, if you will.
Chairman Lucy, one other comment or question, and this may be for the staff side as well. RSCVA is a PERS organization, I believe. So I think that would be something that would be part of that kind of benefit package, because it is a strong benefit. And I'm assuming Mike and Bill, you guys would be including that information as well.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, and it is a PERS benefit. However, for those individuals who have not worked in the PERS system, they would have to be in the PERS system for 5 years to vest before they could vest. And then it's a percentage of their time within the PERS system that they would receive that retirement benefit, up to 27 years within the PERS system before they hit a maximum level for that PERS. So that is a retirement benefit that is very beneficial, and it is based upon their base salary. It's fundamentally based upon their base salary and not the bonus, not the total package. So there are some different caveats to that. It is a nice benefit, but it has some structure to it. My comments to you, Mr. Gamble and Mr. Hanbury, is kind of along the same lines of Mr. Korenstein, is that we need to focus on the individual and give you the dynamic flexibility. This individual that will lead this organization must have the ability to be the foundational individual for the organization. Coming into the recovery period, I believe the security of the package is the most would be the most enticing thing for anybody coming in. But we need the structure and for that individual to really help motivate and bring the recovery back as we move forward through this process, because we do not know what the outcome will be in regards to how long this recovery will take, how complex it will be going forward. And I think as we move forward, when we have those discussions about the base salary, I want to give you the range and the dynamic ability, but I think it has to be based upon the KPIs. And I'm going to channel my inner John Farahi, that they have to be result driven. It has to have the structure. And I think in the past, a lot of the bonus structure has been too discretionary. I think it needs to be more focused on those real true KPIs, as Bill pointed out. It has to have that function. But I think those are discussions for down the road, once we have some of those solidified candidates to really identify what those are. And we'll look to you, Mike and Bill, to help us really identify what that looks like going forward, with the help and the structure of the board, to see what those KPIs are, what we are going to be looking at as those future challenges as we reintegrate with the tourism and travel industry. How do we make those changes and what does that look like? And like I said, going back, it's going to be at the helm of this individual leading this organization. So right now, flexibility to find the most foundational individual to lead the organization is, to me, the most crucial part. So I want to be flexible with the base salary and what we can do for the bonus, but I think that'll be based upon who the individual is, where they're coming from, and what they're looking for.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it.
Any other comments this morning on this item? All right, at this time, we kind of need to do two motions. I'm going to look for two motions. One, I need a motion to accept the document as drafted, presented by Searchwide for dissemination. Also, I'm looking for a motion to accept kind of a dynamic and flexible salary and compensation range for Mr. Hanbury and Mr. Gamble. I don't know if we want to tie it to a specific number, but I believe it can be based upon past salaries that we've offered in years past. That the range could be anywhere from 200 to 300,000. You know, those types of numbers, and a bonus ranges from 30% to 40% as suggested by Mr. Gamble and Mr. Hanbury.
Chairman?
Yes, Mayor Sheeby.
A couple of things. Maybe just give me a little jar in my memory about the contract. I know we're not really talking about that, but maybe they can clarify if we, like, let's say a board member brings forward, you know, 2 or 3 applicants and they apply and they are not obviously candidates that Searchwide brought forth. What does that say in their contract? Do they get the same amount of bonus or incentive?
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, and I just want to say about salary, I think you have to be really careful about going out there and, you know, posting these big salaries, because we really want someone that's going to want to be in this destination, be in Reno, embrace Reno, and not, you know, throw this carrot in front of their face. I think we need, and if we're talking about a candidate that is genuine and authentic, and I think that's exactly what we need, is to, you know, find someone that does embody all of those characteristics that Searchwide talked about. And I think you guys did an excellent, excellent job. So I'm really impressed so far with, you know, what you've come up with and how much time you've taken with everyone. I just want to make sure that we're getting the right candidate for the right reasons. So I think we have to be very careful when we talk about, you know, these massive salaries and so forth, because I want someone that truly wants to be in Reno, that's a big lure for them instead of a dollar amount. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And so I kind of probably tag team this with Mr. Gamble. Through the contract discussions that Mr. Chapman had with Mr. Gamble and Mr. Hanbury and those at Searchwide, whether the candidates come from Searchwide or from board members, they would go through the same process. So as it pertains to Searchwide's bonus structure, that's already outlined. So they're all going to go through the same process. And so I think that's what you're referring to as in specifically the Searchwide contract in regards to their bonus if they bring forth the candidate, whether we bring a candidate. I think what we decided on as the board is that it wouldn't have any impact where the candidate came from. It would be, it would go through the same process. And I believe,
I guess same financial incentive, Chairman, is my question, which is completely fine. And I think it should be so that they have every incentive to look at every candidate equally. Does that make sense?
yes. And I think that was the sentiment of the board to kind of go through it so that it was blind in the sense that whether they came from us or not, that it would be unilateral on the discussion about, didn't matter where the candidate came from, that they would all go through the same scrutiny through search-wide and get their opinion first before being brought forward.
Okay, thank you so much. And I just remember the last time we did this, Mr. DeLone was actually brought in, I believe, from a board member. I think, I don't believe the search firm brought him in. So that's why I'm just asking. I want to make sure that it's, you know, equal on all levels. So thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and then Mr. Gamble, as it pertains to the mayor's question in regards to focus, I think you just stated, and I want you to make sure that it's on the record again, that we are not going to be posting the salary range in the outreach, but that conversation would be held specifically with you and Mr. Hanberry with the candidates on a one-to-one basis, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And Chair Lucy, if I could just make one other point, because the mayor brings up, you know, a couple of good points. We would highly encourage the board not to engage with any candidates. So if you have a name, you've heard of a name, you email me and we'll follow up. Because I think then it just allows us, again, to take it from the very beginning. And then if that person happens to end up at the very end as one of the candidates, it just is, as board members, it also allows you to let us do our work and to not then get in and have people trying to, I'm not going to say that we try to manipulate the process, but I would just say that's why we're here. Don't hesitate to send us anything and everything that you might hear, see, or anyone that reaches out to you, and just say, hey, we're gonna ask, you know, Searchlight Global to be in touch. So, yep, we'd welcome that.
Mayor, if I could also add, I think your point about wanting someone who really wants to be in Reno. Well, I think Ben McDonald did us a tremendous service here by making Reno the #1 small city in America. I mean, it's an extraordinary designation that we're going to be leading with, by the way, in the search. So the ideal for Mike and I is to find a candidate who, first of all, loves Reno, is enthusiastic and really cares and wants to be there, but also is extraordinarily competent. And the thing is, you have to pay for the competency side of that. You don't have to pay for the enthusiasm side. So let's hope we can find the happy ground there where we have a reasonably priced CEO, but also someone who cares dearly about Reno and is totally stoked about having the opportunity to go to work in the community.
Yeah. And again, I just want to reiterate, I think you guys have done a tremendous job, and I'm just really impressed with you guys. So thank you so much. Really, thank you. It's a breath of fresh air because, you know, I'm involved in 2 or 3 of these right now. So great job. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
And just from the Sparks standpoint, they can have an affection for Sparks. They don't have to love it.
I should have said the entire valley,
I always have to get in the S is silent in RSCVA. It's my one joke.
So, Mr. Vice Chair, this is Mark.
Go ahead, Mark.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I have to drop off the call, but I would like to make the motion that I think that we do approve the document as outlined, and that we secondarily give them the flexibility to find a candidate within the salary threshold and the bonus threshold that would be the most attractive to the destination. So that's my motion. Thanks.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion from Mr. Sturbins and a second from Mr. Kornstein. Mr. Kennedy, if you give me a head nod saying that you got that, is that acceptable as a motion for you?
Yeah, I guess my only question, I know we don't want to tie down a specific salary number, but I think if we could maybe tie it to the previous CEO as sort of a starting point, understanding its dynamic, but just to make sure we're sort of clear that we're not talking at this point about a $500,000 salary range. It's more in line with what we've historically had.
Correct. Yes, I would amend the motion to reflect what Mr. Kennedy said.
All right. And Mr. Kornstein, do you agree with that?
Well, if we clarify, I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean they can't speak about anything above 250, or we're just keeping them within a zip code of 250? Because I think if we hamstring them to, they can't talk about anything more than 250, I wouldn't be in agreement. I think that's a mistake. But
No, I believe the way that it was addressed is that it's a starting point, is the historical salary range is a starting point to go either up or down, but stay in that range, that zip code range.
Then I'm fine with that. I'm
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Sturbins, a second from Mr. Korenstein. Mr. Kennedy, can I get a shake of the head saying yes?
Yep.
Okay, all right. With all that being said, I have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? I believe the motion carries unanimously with the board members in attendance. Ms. Silver had to drop off. Ms. Carlson, if you'll make that for the record.
And then just want to say thank you everyone for the presentations and to the staff for keeping positive. And this is Mark, I'm gonna have to drop off. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Gamble, Mr. Hanbury, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate the discussion and look forward to the results you bring forward in the next couple of weeks for us.
Yeah, great. And just real quickly, as it is the week of August 3rd is the date when we said we'd be back with candidates. It could be before that, but I just want to build that expectation. So thank you all. Appreciate your time this morning, and we'll see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Gentlemen. All right, we are on, ladies and gentlemen, we're on to item F2. This is an appointment of the board member pursuant to NRS 244A 601(1)D1, representation of air service establishments. Before we jump into this item, this is to appoint the airport seat, who has been, that seat has been filled by Mr. Nat Caraselli for the last 4 years, I believe. Mr. Caraselli has been on our board and has served us very diligently. I want to thank Mr. Caraselli personally for his time and commitment to the RSCVA, not only here at the RSCVA, but as his commitment at the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. He has done a tremendous amount of work for their commitment for the community, not only as a purveyor of the pepper mill, but throughout the region. He has been a tremendous asset and cares deeply about our region, and his commitment shows that. And as a token of that commitment, I believe, Ms. Cunningham, we do have, there it is, a wonderful gift bag, a going away bag for Mr. Caraselli, being that this is his last meeting with us. Ms. Cunningham will get that to you at her first ability. Ms. Cunningham, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Chair. I would just also like to thank Mr. Karras for his years of service and dedication to the RSCVA and the support that you've provided us through the years. And your gift bag is filled with some Reno Tahoe items that you can take with you. I know you're well known for walking around the region and town and checking out your partner casinos. So we're supplying you with a water bottle, kind of a Swiss Army knife type of a tool should you need to get yourself out of a situation, a coffee tumbler, and some other little goodies. So thank you again.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cunningham and the executive team, and we do appreciate your years of service. So we wish you the best and hope to see you around. I'm sure we will continue to see Nat, his involvement. He will continue to serve on the Airport Authority Board for some time. So with that, Mr. Caraselli, do you have any comments?
Well, I'd like to say this is Nat Caraselli. I want to thank you for all the kind words, and I'll be very quick. As they say in my ethnicity group, they say arrivederci, which means till we meet again.
Well, thank you, Nat. We appreciate it. All right. Mayor Sheeby.
Oh, I just want to say we will certainly miss you, and this is really hard to be so virtual and not see one another. But I just want to say thanks, Nat, for everything that you do for the community and for the RSCVA, and just really being a great champion. So thank you, my friend. And we'll miss you, but you know how Reno is. We all just sort of rotate. So I'll see you on another board or something.
All right. All right, Mr. Kennedy, will you read us into the item and give us the legalese, please?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So sadly, Mr. Caraselli is not eligible for reappointment. In your materials, you have a letter from Marilee Mora, President CEO of the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, nominating Daniel Farahi and Jennifer Rose. The appointment would be for a 2-year term to become effective July 1. And this item is open for discussion by the entire board, but is only voted on by the elected officials. And with that, I will turn it back to you.
All right. Are there comments from the board in regards to the appointment for the Airport Authority seat? All right, seeing no comments from the board. At this time, I would, after review and discussion, I want to thank the Airport Authority, Marilee Mora, for their continued work in conjunction with the RSCVA. They serve as, I would consider, a sister agency to us. They're as crucial to our success as we are to theirs. We work together almost, harmoniously, continually on many different things, from our marketing efforts to their air service providing us the access for a number of our communities. So with that being said, after looking at, and I also want to thank both candidates that have been submitted to us, Ms. Jennifer Rose and Mr. Daniel Farahi. Both are very active community members and have served at the Airport Authority for some time and are very much committed to the community. However, it is a difficult choice. Both are very qualified individuals. At this time, though, I feel that it would be in the best interest of the RSCVA to support Mr. Daniel Farahi for the seat for the Airport Authority. And I would make that as a motion.
I'll second that motion, Ed Lawson. And let me just say for the record too, Jennifer Rose is an outstanding candidate, and and you're right, Mr. Chair, this was a very difficult choice between the two. But I think in the short term, Mr. Farahi is going to carry on, maybe in his dad's footsteps, maybe not, but I think he's a good choice for us.
All right.
Chairman, I'd
Yes.
like to say they're both amazing candidates. I'm just gonna, I guess I just want to remind the board too, moving forward, and I love all my gamers that are, that sit on our boards, and I understand, the structure. So I both of them are fantastic, and I know them both personally, and happy to support Daniel. But I also want to just remind us, moving forward, the background of, when people come in, like with Miss Rose, just sort of diversifying and just other things that people bring to the table. I actually think at some point, the board should be restructured in a sense to be a little bit more balanced, like maybe from arts and culture and food and things like that. And so I know it's the structure, but I just want to appeal to the board that, it's something that we should always pay attention to, regardless, of candidates. But so I just want to say, yeah, they're both fantastic. So either one we would be very fortunate to have. But I also want to make sure our board represents sort of who we are, the new Reno, instead of one, particular heavy in the industry, because then I think we don't have so much of a balance. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mayor Sheeby. All right. Being that this is discussion for the entire board, but only voted on by the 3 electeds, I do have a motion and a second motion from myself, a second from Mr. Lawson, supporting Daniel Farahi to represent the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority as the board member on the RSCVA. With that, I'll call for the motion of the 3 electeds. vote for the 3 electeds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Daniel Farahi. Welcome to the RSCVA board. Ms. Jennifer Rose, thank you so much. We do appreciate. We hope to continue to work with you diligently on the Airport Authority and look forward to your leadership at the Airport Authority as well. So with that, we will close this item. Unless Mr. Farahi, do you have any, I know you're on the Zoom meeting, do you have any comments at this time?
No, just to the board, thank you for your support. I echo your sentiments about Jennifer Rose. It's been an honor to serve with her on the Airport Authority. She's a teammate, and I think we both have a lot of respect for each other. And I certainly look at this seat as being an opportunity to be the voice for of course, the airport, but of course, all the board members. So I don't feel as my appointment is necessarily just for myself, but really for the entire Airport Authority board. And I thank you for your confidence and look forward to playing a role in this important decision, obviously, we have in front of us in choosing the next leader of the RSCVA.
Well, welcome aboard, and we look forward to your first board meeting next in July.
Thank you.
All right, we will close this item, and we were on to item F3. This is the review, discussion, and possible action regarding the revisions to the RSCVA harassment and non-discrimination policies.
Good morning. This is Molly Rizak for the revisions to the harassment and non-discrimination policies. You will recall that at the last meeting, we reviewed some of those policies and noted that the policies did not address how the complaints related to the president and CEO could be brought forward. After discussions on how that should be brought forward, we made additional revisions to those, and inside your packet are those revisions where at each level from employee, management, human resources, board of directors, as well as the chair of the executive and legislative committee, which handles all personnel matters related to the CEO, and the board chair, as well as legal counsel, will handle those complaints. And so we have put forward those revisions for your consideration.
Okay. Now, everybody has, as Ms. Rizek has pointed out, those revisions have been provided to all board members within their packet. Are there any discussions on the revisions as in the draft at this time? Mayor Sheevy?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say thank you to Molly and Ben. I know you guys really worked hard on this and you put a lot of thought and energy into it. And I think it's going to be extremely beneficial. So thank you so much to the both of you for really spending time on this and realizing that, you know, it was something that in the future, I think will provide a lot more clarity and a lot less liability. So grateful.
And thank you very much for your help as well.
Okay. Any further comments from the board in regards to these changes in the policy? All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to adopt and adopt the draft language has been presented.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Korenstein. Do I have a second? I'll
second Andy Chapman.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Korenstein, second from Andy Chapman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously for the board members still represented here today via the Zoom call. All right. That brings us to one of our final, this is our board member comments regarding future items. Is there any items that any board members would like to bring up for the next meeting or any future subsequent meetings? Going once, twice, three. Okay, well, with that, I want to thank the executive staff again for conducting the business of the RSCVA during this very challenging time. I think you've done a phenomenal job to continue to keep our industry and organization afloat. I know it is challenging. You guys have done a wonderful job. with the videos and everything that you've been continuously conducting to try to reinvigorate our business and our community through that. And it is a breath of fresh air to continue to see that type of commitment from our organization through such a challenging time. We look forward to the next fiscal year. We do jump into that on Wednesday next week. So we have some challenges in front of us, but I am optimistic that we will get through this together as a community. And hopefully, remember, everybody, we need to continue to wear a mask, stay safe, to stay open. You know, no mask, no shoes, no shirt, no service. We want to make sure that we are doing our part to continue to bring forth these challenging times. Keep your families and everyone safe and community safe. And remember, we need to continue to make our community safe so that our visitors stay safe as well. So with that, we will go to our final public comment from the floor, unless there's any comments from any other board members. Madam Clerk, has there been any further public comments submitted to you during the Zoom meeting?
There are no public comments at this time.
All right. I have not received any public comment. Is there any public comment from any of the members joining us via Zoom? All right, seeing none. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a wonderful Thursday. Enjoy the remainder of your June, and we will see you all in July. Thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
So.